Not much gospel there, was there? Whew. Now I know why Remmert's in Germany. And that's because we all have a question that we ask all the time. What's in it for me? We've learned to ask that question before we invest our time, our energy, or our resources in anything. What will this do for me? Will it make life better, or happier, or easier? And you know, we ask the same question about religion. That's why people church shop. Some of you may be here. We expect faith to improve us, strengthen our families, offer community and belonging, help us live together, and make the world better. But today's readings challenge that expectation. Jesus tells his disciples then and now that following him will not always make life easier. Lawsuits, conflict, rejection, the world turned upside down and inside out. A cross with your name on it. Really, Jesus? Is this how the reign of God will come? In light of Jesus' instructions to his disciples and to us, Jeremiah's loud complaint, read beautifully by the way, makes a whole lot more sense. This is not what I wanted, Jeremiah says. I've been duped, seduced, overpowered, and taken advantage of by God. Who needs these headaches? The answer from today's readings, especially the reading from Romans, is really simple. Who needs these headaches? We do. It's all in the way the Apostle Paul describes sin and its antidote. Its antidote is baptism. For Paul, sin is not merely what most of us like to have, and that is a catalog of moral failures. Thinking of sin that way makes sin seem smaller than it really is, and easier to manage than it can ever be. Sin, according to Paul, is death at work in life. I'm going to say that again because it's really, really important. Sin, according to Paul, is death at work in life. It distorts God's good creation. It twists our relationships. And it hides its power by convincing us that we are still in control. Newsflash, we're not. Sooner or later, we all get caught up in its grasp. And on this, Jesus and Paul agree, and they don't always. Sin is finally about lordship. It's about who's in charge, who receives our allegiance. In Paul's world, first century Roman Empire, imperial power made sin visible by demanding wealth and honor and bodies and obedience to itself. In our world today, that same power still appears whenever people and creation are exploited, disarmed, and discarded. You see, sin always wants more. It pulls everything toward itself like a black hole. And like a black hole, it inevitably leads to extinction. For Paul, baptism is the antidote to sin because baptism joins us to a death and a resurrection. Jesus is the pattern. Caesar, then, represented in the Passion story by Pontius Pilate, believes he has the upper hand and the last word by crucifying those who challenge his rule. He believes death trumps life. This is the fear of the one who can kill the body that Paul is referring to. Caesar's power, and the power of anyone who plays Caesar today, comes to an end. So does the reign of sin. In baptism, as I like to say, and you're probably tired of hearing it by now, the only death we have to fear is already behind us. Jesus' words move in the exact same direction. Disciples, like those to whom disciples like us are sent, are worthy of Jesus when they are grafted into the story of Jesus' death and resurrection. When they see Jesus' resurrection, death and resurrection, as the story and the pattern of our lives. Death and resurrection. Baptism is the gateway into this, not merely for personal salvation, but for the death of the old order and the creation of a new way of being in the world, not living deathward, but living from death into life. It's about losing one's old life and rising into another that's lived for others. The difficulties, the troubles, the persecutions for disciples, for Jeremiah in the first reading, for the Jesus followers in Rome that Paul writes to, and for you and me. All of those terrible things are, in fact, invitations into God's revolutionary, world-making, life-renewing project, enabling all of God's children, including all of us, to walk in newness of life. And the way to newness of life is not simply from the font to the world. It's from the font to the meal to the world. That's where newness of life is born, is nourished, and that's how newness of life is lived. Amen.